Hi everyone, just wanted to give a quick introductory video to Unit 4 where we're looking at Fullen's two chapters, one on change and one on relationships, which are the next two pieces of his Leadership for Change pie, I guess we could call it. You'll also be looking at one chapter in the online book by Jim Ellsworth entitled Understanding Change. There's about 10 chapters in there. I've listed in the introduction for this week some of the ones I think are good. There is one by Fullen in there, which you're free to use, but I'd sort of encourage people to get a new person's perspective this week, since we have that opportunity to pick. Historically, the resistance chapter has been pretty popular. A lot of people like to read that. So feel free, if everyone picks the same one or two chapters, that's totally fine with me. Pick whatever seems to suit your needs on what's happening in school, what looks the most interesting. This may be dipping the toe in the water for something you can follow up with later on in the course and later on in your program. So the primary work for this week is to understand Fullen's explanation of the process of educational change and how it works, and understand the function of relationships to educational change and to educational leadership. My sort of personal biography is an interesting example of educational change, in that my doctorate is actually in a field called instructional systems, which came out of essentially World War II and the Army needing to train up a bunch of farmers how to fly fighter bombers and heavy-duty military equipment. And so they developed some pretty rigorous adult training programs out of World War II. Eventually this became, after the war was over, the basis for a lot of psychological and pedagogical innovations around adult education, workforce education, distance technologies, radio learning, correspondence courses, that kind of thing. So the program that I studied in was actually people who were developing the next latest and greatest Moodle and video-based conferencing software. But what these people found is that they had great ideas and they eventually developed some great products, but they were having trouble having them implemented out in the work. They were either entrepreneurs or worked for companies or governments who had supported them in developing these new tools, but not as many people were using them as they wanted. And so they realized they needed to start studying the process of change, and particularly the diffusion of innovations. This is the title of a famous book by Everett Rogers from the University of Arizona. And so my interest had always been in change, and I got attached to this program called Instructional Systems. Really, it was an educational technology program because they wanted to see their great tools and gadgets used in the classroom. And that is one of the fundamental challenges that you as leaders face. Is there is an endless supply of products and people who have the latest, greatest idea. Sometimes they're for profit, sometimes they're local, or even created by your own staff. But what we need to do is understand the process by which a better idea becomes something that is shared widely and practiced widely and continuously improved upon. That's the change process, and I find it very interesting. It draws on the skills of marketing and sales. It draws on the building of human relationships. It draws on the establishment of shared goals, which implies moral purpose that we looked at last week directly. And so I think understanding the change process is really my most the chapter that I sort of refer to the most out of Fullen, and it certainly speaks to what I've sort of saw as the work I do in my research and writing. The relationships chapter, which you'll read, is also connected to the field experience on relationships you're doing this week, where you'll be in a public place in a school and simply take notes and document the adult conversations that you hear, trying to infer what you can about the relationships of the adults in that workplace. You're looking for whether the conversations seem to be professional or personal, whether they seem to be people who are very familiar working with each other, or are they sort of low-level conversations about people who might not know each other very well or might be have a new relationship. This can be done in your workplace. It can be done in another workplace. But I want you to tease out some assessment of the relationships of the place you do your field experience, and put that right in your dialogue post for this week. We're looking ahead to wrapping up the Fullen book with chapters 5, 6, and 7 the week after this, and then we'll have our midterm exam. So for those of you who haven't gotten a copy of the Big Orange Splot text, which we'll use as a basis for writing your midterm exam, make sure you are ordering that. Also the Bullman and Deal text, which we'll be using right after the midterm. It's time to get those things ordered if you haven't done it. They should still be in the bookstore as well. Other than that, the online dialogues seem to be going well. I'll be around if you have any questions or concerns. Please feel free to write me an email. If anyone wants to come meet on campus, I'll be around most of this week and next week, and so I'm happy to do that. I'm also toying around the idea of doing quick 10-minute phone check-ins with everybody around the week of the midterm. So I haven't decided if I'm going to do that yet, but I'd like to maybe set aside a half a day of myself to just do a phone check-in with everybody and make sure people are getting what they feel like they needed. So look for more information and email by that. Email if you have any questions. Until then, take care.